So, Chelsea are the worst team in the Premier League. That's if you go back to February the 11th when Thomas Frank was sacked by Tottenham. Since then, Chelsea have picked up less points than any other team in the Premier League, and they'll be bottom of a Premier League form table. I'm here back on the Chelsea Blueprint, this time with Nina and Guleed, Chelsea content creators. Thank you both for joining me. How are you both feeling? As depressed as me, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we got beat 3-1 by Forest second team, but no Anderson, no Murillo, so I think it's quite depressing, quite poor. You see the directors chilling with the Zerbi in the box as well, so seeing the director flying with a Tottenham coach is not the best viewing, so yeah, I mean, it's terrible all on board.
Nina, you right?
No, send help. I mean, yeah, to be fair, I'm at that point with Chelsea where I know we're going to lose, but the manner just seems to be more embarrassing every single time. Like, everyone saw Nottingham Forest line up, as Guleed said, and said this should be pretty straightforward. And then inside 15 minutes, they were pretty much. They'd collected their 3 points. They could have left at half time. So, yeah, it's embarrassing. Nothing went our way. Like, injuries picked up again, which obviously unfortunate, but you have disallowed goal, you just can't score for the life of you. Joao Pedro, really beautiful goal at the end, but just a consolation at the end of the day. But one goal scored across 6 games you've lost in the Premier League, conceding 14, is shocking beyond belief. I mean, for any Premier League side, let alone one that spent $1 billion and was supposed to be challenging for a Premier League title. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like at the moment, Chelsea, for me, it feels like you just don't know where the floor is. Like every week you think this is as bad as it's going to get. And then yesterday you see the Forest lineup and you think, oh, finally, we won the FA Cup semi-final. That's something to build on. Things can get better from here. And then the floor drops beneath you again and you think, Jesus, like how does it get worse? And then somehow it does get worse. And with Liverpool and Man City next, you can see how it's going to get worse from here on. I think we should probably just go straight into what we do is like the stocks part of the show, where I'll get both of you to name a player whose stock rose from the game and a player whose stock fallen. It might be a bit of a difficult one to choose whose stock rose, but we'll get into it. So Nina, can I ask you, whose stock do you think rose from the game yesterday?
Oh my God. There's genuinely nobody who, for me, looks like they'd improved from previous performances or built on anything that we've already seen. I'd say Derry, who came off injured, really unlucky too, but he looked our best player before his injury.
Yeah.
So that's telling you something. And you're in trouble when you've spent all that money and you're starting a Crystal Palace Academy product that you've never watched play for your first team before in a game of such high importance, when you're potentially hanging on to dear life to secure some sort of European football. And that's not to blame the kid. That's to blame the whole structure and the position that we're in. So I guess it's a positive that we have a young attacking prospect in his name, but also very, very concerning to know that that's the best we could do.
Guleed, do you agree with that? Do you have anyone else you think stock went up from a terrible game?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, for me, it would be probably Joao Pedro. I think his hold-up play, as usual, was top again. I mean, we had to play him on the left when Derry came off injured, so he scored a brilliant goal as well, had a goal disallowed. I mean, across since Rossini even came in over the last, 4 months, he's the only ball player who kind of stood out and performed at a high level. I think everyone else kind of levels dropped. Clearly, there wasn't really a fan of Rossini, but it looked like Joao Pedro was someone who kind of shut out the noise. At the end of the game, I saw him give his shirt to the fan. He gave an interview at the end as well. So he came out looking mature, scored a brilliant goal, hold-up play was good. So for me, the only player outside of Derry that I'll give any shout out to will be Joao Pedro.
Yeah, I actually would be inclined to agree with both of you. I think João Pedro, the goal obviously came too little too late for him, but it was a great finish, and you can't argue that his stock has gone down really, because it was a great goal. And like you said, he played well, he linked up well, I thought, with the others before he scored and had the disallowed goal as well. The thing you mentioned that I really liked was that he came out and took some accountability after the game. He came out and said, we need to take a look at ourselves, me included, after scoring that brilliant goal. I think a lot of those players, if they'd have done what he did, A, wouldn't have come out and spoken to the media, and B, if they've performed well, they wouldn't still take that accountability on themselves. There seems to be this culture of almost like shifting the blame onto someone else at Chelsea, whether that's the directors, the sporting directors, the ownership, the other players, the players who want to leave, the goalkeepers, it always seems like it's never someone's fault. But João Pedro took some accountability, and he's probably the last player who should have done so. But he did so, and I really appreciate that from João Pedro. For me, I'll name someone different, but only because his stock couldn't really have fallen, and that's Levi Colwill. Just it was brilliant to see him back. I thought he stepped into his tackles well when he came on the pitch. It would have been hard to be worse for me than what Tosin was when he came off at half time. But it was nice to see Colwill back, and I think that'll be a big boost for Chelsea, especially next season and coming towards the end of this season, although it feels like there's not really a lot to play for the remainder of this season. But we'll go into whose stock fell. I'd imagine this one will be a bit easier to discuss. Nina, we'll come back to you to start with. Who do you think was the worst performer, or whose stock went down?
I
I
actually
mean,
didn't think I'd say this at any point in a Chelsea season, but Cole Palmer, and that's the first time that I've actually said and called out what is now becoming so obvious to the eye, that Palmer is so far off his game, and I think arguably for me the worst player on the pitch, which again, big statement, and I didn't think it had come out of my mouth. And again, he's a player I'd fight his corner to the death because he is so brilliant, and
Yeah.
he came in and single-handedly saved what was a dire season for us again. But it's come to a point where he's almost worsening us. Like every time Palmer was on the ball, it either led to a Nottingham Forest turnover, or he was dispossessed easily. He had the odd few crosses here and there, and someone gets on the end of it, and he's got an assist, fine. But his all-round game has really regressed, and it's concerning. I know he's had an injury. I think the penalty, arguably a tough time after what is a distressing moment for the players on the pitch. Seeing a teammate go down the way that he did. By the way, that was horrendous, Lloyd. I don't know how it looked at the ground, but the replay, I wish I hadn't seen the replay. It was awful. But anyway, back to the point, stepping up to take penalty after. He scores those penalties 8 out of 10 times, but I think it was a better save, a goalkeeping save, more than it was a bad penalty. But his all-round game, for me, was disappointing. And yeah, it's a shame to say.
Guleed, do you agree with that?
yeah, 100%. I was going to say Cole Palmer as well, to be fair, but I think his overall play, like you said, kind of dwindled a lot. In his first season on the potch, I think he was a goal scorer as create, and then under Maresca was more of a creator. Now he doesn't score goal, doesn't really create, can't really be his man. I mean, again, penalties is something that he should be scoring. I think he's only missed one penalty before now, which against Leicester last season. And again, I don't think it was the best penalty. He's normally pushes to the corner. I mean, at least like you said, Sells great save, but I wholeheartedly agree. I think, but one person I would say as well, other than Cole Palmer, whose I feel like stocks have definitely dropped, is Kukurea. I think Kukurea, that second half of the season under Pochettino, was for me probably the best left back in the league, arguably one of the best left backs in the world next to Nuno Mendes. And yesterday, both goals came from his side. He got beat very easily by back on the right. Got beat again for the penalty where he cut in again. Defensively, just a bit shaky, especially with the rise and emergence of Hato as well. I do think Kukurea is there's a question mark on him at the moment, especially with his performance dripping. Is it because he's unhappy? Is it because Maresca left? I'm not quite sure what his mindset is at, but definitely for me, I think over the last 4 to 5 months, his performance has definitely dropped, and I think his stocks after that game for me has definitely fell from being one of the best left backs in the league to being kind of competing with Hato, and I think Hato can definitely take that spot.
Yeah, I think I was making the case with Kukurea not too long ago that he was the best left back in the world under Enzo Maresca, and you're right that ever since Maresca left, I think Kukurea's performance levels have dropped massively. Cole Palmer, Nina, I mean, I'm the same as you in the sense I am arguably his biggest fan. Like, I dressed up as him for Halloween. I have his name on the back of multiple Chelsea shirts. I love Cole Palmer, but he is not the same player that we grew to love. He doesn't look the same. The interesting thing you said, Guleed, is like he doesn't look like he can beat his man. He's a player who, in the same breath as the likes of Ryan Cherky at Manchester City, he makes you fall in love with football for how he plays. It's like effortless, it's clean, he takes on his man, he beats his man, he's skillful, he's got flair. An amazing player to watch when he's on form, but this season he just hasn't been the same. And I've constantly this season been arguing with Chelsea fans saying that his ability to score penalties has masked what has been a pretty horrendous season. I've been following Chelsea home and away. I've watched him every time he's played for Chelsea this season, and he just doesn't look the same player. I don't know initially I thought it was a confidence thing. I thought it could have been an injury thing. I've spoken to numerous players who told me it was just he's coming back from injury, but he's been fit now. There's no excuse, and Chelsea need him, and he's not showing up. And now it seems even the penalties are gone. Like it was a good save from Sells, but I don't think it was a worldy save. He didn't smash it in the corner, and Sells has somehow got there. I thought it was not a poor penalty, but I didn't think it was a good penalty either. And that really has been Cole Palmer's season. I think he hasn't been atrocious, but compared to the levels that we're used to seeing from him, he has been so far off it. And I said yesterday after the game, I don't think he should go to the World Cup in the summer. I think he is massively fatigued from last season, and then he carried that injury. He tried to play through it to get to the World Cup. He didn't choose to have surgery. And I think it's in the best interest not only of him to have the summer to rest and reset and regroup ahead of next season, but I think it's best for England as well. I think Morgan Rogers, Ebere Eze, Jude Bellingham, even Morgan Gibbs-White, the Forest fans yesterday throughout the whole game were chanting Morgan Gibbs-White, England's number 10. He's been better than Cole Palmer this season. So that's 4 players that have all outperformed him this season. I don't see how Thomas Tuchel watching on can watch that game and think he's the man I want to start for us at the World Cup. I want to get both of your thoughts on that, because when I said that yesterday, I got quite a bit of backlash, and it's mostly because Cole Palmer obviously has had moments in an England shirt. The main moment being the Euro 2024 final, where he came on off the bench and made the difference. But personally, I don't think I've seen it consistently enough, even in an England shirt, to justify him being on a plane in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I'd agree. And I think the only thing is, maybe, if it was still Southgate, Cole Palmer would still not be utilised. I just think that because it's Thomas Tuchel, he's maybe got a different plan, I want to say. I don't know, because Palmer has been that player that, like you say, Lloyd, deserves the licence to be creative, to take on his man, to, take risks, take shots outside the box, because he's proved that he can be an absolutely, brilliant player on his best day. But you're right, and England does have a wealth of players in those positions. You saw Gibbs-White come on yesterday and provide what was a really good opportunity. Again, that just tells you everything. He came off with an injury himself, but he got his job done. And he's had his moments as well, but right now the performances Cole Palmer's putting in, they don't warrant time at the World Cup. But I don't know, I just think, and the hopeless Chelsea fan inside me is saying maybe Thomas Tuchel has a plan, and that's why he was there. But he looked so isolated as well. Like, Palmer kind of out on the right was very much hugging the touchline at times, and he was getting doubled up on, and he was passing backwards. Like, we're never used to seeing Palmer pass backwards. We get it from our Garnachos and our Netos who can't take on their men anymore, but you're not used to seeing it from Palmer, because he's a player that can take on his man. But like Guleed said, he struggles nowadays.
So if you're Thomas Tuchel making the decisions, you take him or not?
Yeah, you have to take him. I think it's harsh not to take him, especially what he's done over the last 2 years. Like, I love Cole Palmer. He's obviously been terrible this season, but he's had that groin injury. He's kind of come back into the team, had a different coach. I mean, the system and the team in terms of Rosinho wasn't really optimized for really anyone. He's kind of struggled in that mode. Again, new coach coming in now with the interim coach. So I just think the whole season across the board, no one can really say as a Chelsea player you really stood out and performed at a top level, or the level that you'd expect of a player. I think the only player that's been decent across the season, probably Enzo Fernandez. But I think, listen, what Cole Palmer can produce is that magical moment. We saw in the Euros final, scored the goal. Semi-final, got the assist. Club World Cup in a big game, scored 2 goals. So in a knockout competition, when you need a moment within the last 20 minutes, I think Palmer is someone you can bring off the bench. I wouldn't start him over, like you said, the Bellinghams or your Saka on the right. But in the last 20 minutes in a World Cup quarter final, for someone to give you that bit of magic out of nowhere, he still has that in him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I definitely see both sides. I think on the merit of a season, I think there are players that deserve it more than him. But like you said, he does have those moments coming off the bench, and I don't know if the other players, the Gibbs Whites and Eze's, necessarily have that in their locker. So maybe it does make sense to take him, but I just think overall on the basis of the season, I think it's incredibly harsh on the likes of Eze and Gibbs White if they don't get a chance because they've been better than him. But anyway,
Yeah,
we'll
but
go on
over the
to
last 3 seasons, though, Palmer definitely been better than all of them over the last couple of years. So I think it would be hard to not take Palmer of one season based on what he did over the last 2 years, especially the numbers he broke, the goals he scored, the performance he's put up in big games as well. And if he goes to penalties, you can rely on. I know he missed yesterday, but nine
yeah.
times out of 10, Palmer does score. So if he's a penalty shootout, you can kind of rely on him to be like your fourth taker, your fifth taker. So there's a lot of pros to take in Palmer, in my opinion.
Tuchel's got a
Yeah.
resurgence plan for him, so he's got to go. He's going to do his bits. However, I will say it's quite sad that we're talking about Palmer just being a super sub player that can come off the bench and produce a moment of magic. Because this is a player that a couple of years ago we would envision like England's building around and having as a regular player, someone that can service the likes of a Kane. And it's kind of sad that we're saying, oh well, you can bring him off the bench. And of course, he's produced moments of magic. Like he scored in finals for City, and he didn't even really play for them before he joined us.
Yeah.
He is a player who has proved to be important in big games. But yeah, it's just a bit sad that you're talking about him potentially just being a sub at best at the moment.
Yeah, we're going to end the episode by, sadly, again, talking about the state of Chelsea
Anything
Football Club. It's
cheerful?
almost certain. No cheerful here. No smiling. Get the Guleed. I see you get that smile off your face right now, and you, Nina. Anyway, basically, there's almost no chance of Chelsea playing in the Champions League next season. It's not mathematically impossible just yet, given Forest and Villa play each other on Thursday, but it's 99% sure that they won't be playing in the Champions League next season. So we're going to do a quick section at the end of the video of how do you think you fix Chelsea right now? Because let's say they're not playing in the Champions League next season. They still need a new manager. They need a number of new players. Nina, how do they make things better?
How much time you got, mate? This is a long one. Look, first and foremost, it's again recruitment, which has kind of left us in this position. Like you look at our bench yesterday, like Forest started their second string team and they brought off Gibbs White, Chris Wood, like Milenkovic, Anderson, like all of these players. And who could we turn to? Like we needed a goal and we brought on a defender and a midfielder because that's all we have to offer. You're not having those like goal scorers on the bench that you can like turn to in moments where you are struggling. And again, it's poor equipment. We weren't equipped ever to compete this season because of again, so many young players learning on the job, no goal scoring wingers. You spent money on wingers that, again, unproven. Like, you signed Neto. Neto was never a goal scoring winger, even when he was at Wolves. You signed a Garnacho, again, a player that United didn't really even want, spent money and money and money. And potentially at the time, you're looking at players like, I don't know how realistic it would have been, but Elise's on the tables, Kvaratskhelia, like players who will provide output. So again, just poorly equipped.
But Nina, we were in the title race when we won 1-1 against Arsenal.
Yeah, but look, it's a difficult one because we had a good run under Maresca at the start of the season and there were moments, but we still weren't putting out like 10 out of 10 performances week in, week out. There was a lot of games where we kind of just got over the line or, a mid performance just about cut it. But I'm talking over the course of the season to manage to compete on that front for the course of 38 games, we're not equipped, and we saw how consistently exposed we were. We are like 28 points off the Premier League leaders. Like that is telling you everything you need to know. And Chelsea can be a good team on the one day, but that's not good enough to win a title because you have to be consistent over the course of the season. And I just think defensively we've chopped and changed lineups. We don't have an anchor or a backbone in this team. Arguably, yes, our midfield maybe, and you'd argue your fullbacks when Reece James is fit as well, and Joao Pedro up top. But overall, you're still talking about spending money after all the money spent. And guess what that's going to do? It's going to provide another turnover where there'll be, it'll rock the ship because you can't keep building. And I actually agree with Jamie Carragher for once that you can't just keep like buying players and hoping they click together under a new manager every 5 months. It's not going to happen. You need to build some sort of backbone and then just spend where you need to. But you need to get some experience through the door. You need to like change the model. There's no other way about it. And just sign a manager or just bring in a manager that's going to exert some authority. You already saw they didn't respect the one that you put in the job in January. So bring in someone who can actually like speak some sense to these players and get them motivated. None of them look motivated. They all look like they've given up, and some of them are already thinking about moves away. So motivation, experience, a manager, that's so important, isn't it? You can't want
what manager do you want?
I mean, ideally, if I lived in a rosy world, Diego Simeone is perfect.
You think, but he's so
He's so what?
he's so opposite of
Yeah.
what
why?
Chelsea want.
But why?
He
On what
managerially, he's obviously got the experience and he's got the authority. I massively agree with you in that sense, but
which is
he
needed.
is just not going to work in this Chelsea
Why
structure.
not?
Like, because he won't
Why?
stand for what they want.
Exactly, and that's the problem. So which manager will? Because you're choosing between world-class managers and managers who will just go with your circus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but but we all know that they're not going to go for a Simeone.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, and that's the problem. So yeah, roll on. I don't know, Gary O'Neill or Iraola three or Marco Silva. Yeah, that's going to be the manager that we have next season.
What about Xabi Alonso?
He's not going to come to Chelsea. Would love
Neither
to.
is Simeone, but you wanted him.
Yeah, no. Like I said, if I could actually click some sense into them, I would go for these managers, but they won't. And if Alonso knows better for himself, he'd stay far away from this job.
I think almost any manager would, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Guleed, how about you? Who's your choice?
For me, 100% has to be Xabi Alonso. I mean, just the job he did at Bayer Leverkusen. I mean, when he took over the one, near the relegation zone, kind of battling that relegation that season, got them to in the top half of that season. One did it invincible with Bayer Leverkusen, went to Real Madrid. I mean, even his metrics, I know Real Madrid ended up kind of firing or kind of getting rid of him. But if you look at his metrics in terms of XG, chance created, touches in the box, it's all top of the league for that. And then since then, Real Madrid kind of fallen off a cliff. So for me, I think if you want a coach that's going to develop the players, has that personality in terms of the fans will actually buy into what he wants to do because he's achieved things as a player. And one of the biggest things that we kind of, as fans and as players with Rosina, kind of didn't really gel with was that kind of respect. And I think Xabi Alonso, what he's won as a player, automatically kind of gives that respect off immediately. And as a coach, I think in terms of what he's done with Bayer Leverkusen, I think it's quite promising. And I think in terms of the squad and the profile that we have, I think it suits perfectly well. And he's not someone who's going to stick to his 3-4-3. I think he's shown that Real Madrid is adaptable. He's able to kind of change players into the formation that suits them. So I think for me, I think he kind of ticks all the boxes that we need at the moment.
Yeah, definitely hear both viewpoints. Anyway, roll on Conference League football with Gary O'Neill next season. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us on the Chelsea Blueprint. That's all we got time for today. But thank you, Nina. Thank you, Guleed, for joining us and giving us your viewpoint on Chelsea at the moment. Let us know in the comments down below what you think about the current state of Chelsea right now. 6 league defeats in a row and an FA Cup final against Manchester City to come. We'll be back with you next Monday to speak all things Chelsea once again. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.